All right, everyone, I am here with Dr. William Lane Craig, a man that many people believe to be the greatest Christian debater of all time. Now, you've debated a number of Muslim apologists over the years,
yes.
Right? And what did you think of their arguments?
Well, I think that Shabir Ali was the slickest person I've ever debated. He was amazingly wily and crafty in the way he would frame his arguments, very slippery. He would present arguments that were just enough off base that they sounded plausible, but then were really, in fact, quite mistaken. The other two fellows, Yusuf Ismail and Jamal Badawi, I think were more traditional Muslim apologists, and those arguments were not very impressive. I particularly find the arguments for Islam based on scientific information hidden in the pages of the Quran to be especially unpersuasive. It sort of reminds me of misguided Christians who try to prove that television is predicted in the Bible, things of that sort. So those sorts of arguments were not very impressive.
Now, what I wanted to do was to show you how certain other Muslim apologists, even extremely popular Muslim apologists who don't debate, actually have positions that are far, far worse. So, Yusuf Estes is a convert to Islam from America. He converted from Christianity to Islam when he was a young man. And he gives his testimony. Basically, he had no evidence, no foundation for Christianity, didn't believe there was any evidence for it,
yes.
Accepted it all by faith. And then a Muslim came along and showed that there's good evidence for Islam. And so now he's become a massively popular Muslim speaker. But because he doesn't debate, he can kind of say whatever he wants to his Muslim audience. And you're going to get a bit of an idea of what passes for good argumentation among Muslim apologists who don't face you in debate. So we're gonna look at three short clips here, and I've just divided them up so that we can sort of comment on each one.
But I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to be honest. This is not for you to, start a debate, but just be honest. Was Jesus a Catholic? And it's not open to debate, so there's no point in opening that up because you know and I know he wasn't. The Catholic Church was in business about 300 years before Jesus was born. It's on their website. Don't go like this. It's on their website. That's where I took it from. The Catholic Church was really started in Rome by Alexander the Great.
Did you catch that? So
Yes.
the Catholic Church was in business 3 centuries before Christ and was founded in Rome by Alexander the Great. So,
I wonder what Alexander was doing in Rome.
yeah, he went the other direction, didn't he? Yeah.
Oh my. And I wonder what he thinks the Catholic Church believed in. If there was 300 years before Christ, they must have proclaimed something very different than Jesus. I wonder what the Catholic Church believed and taught.
So
It's unbelievable.
You're not impressed then?
No, I'm not. And I wonder where he's going. I mean, suppose we had agree that Jesus was not a Catholic, regardless of his misinformation about the founding of the early Roman Catholic Church. Let's say, yes, we agree that Jesus was not a Catholic. So what? I wonder where he's going with that. I mean, Jesus was a Jew, for goodness sake.
Yeah, it's just it's common among Muslims to point out, well, Muhammad was a Muslim, but Jesus wasn't a Christian, and so we're doing a better, not realizing that Jesus is in a different category in Christianity than Muhammad is in Islam.
Yes, well, and the real question is, did Jesus believe that he was the Jewish Messiah? And I think that there are compelling evidences that he did think of himself that way. And in fact, even a skeptical New Testament critic like Gerald Ludemann has said to me, I don't think you can make sense of the New Testament data unless Jesus of Nazareth believed he was the Messiah. Now, Ludemann doesn't believe it himself, but he certainly thinks Jesus thought that he was the Messiah. So that's the really critical question. Not was Jesus a Protestant or a Catholic, but did he believe that he was the long-awaited Jewish Messiah?
And Islam says yes, but they have no clue what it means, right?
Fair enough, right?
There's
and then
no
one
meaning
would
to
need
it.
to unpack that further as to what that would involve.
So, but here's what I kind of find interesting, right? How long would you last as a Christian apologist if you were saying things like that
about Islam,
about something, some other ideology,
300 years before Muhammad, and it was when Alexander went to Rome or something. You would be humiliated, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and yet it for some reason it doesn't affect his popularity. He can get up there and say things like this over and over again.
I'm afraid that says something about the ignorance of those who are taken in by him. It's very sad, really.
It's a problem. All right, let's check out next clip here.
Okay.
It's on their website. Don't go like this. It's on their website. That's where I took it from. The Catholic Church was really started in Rome by Alexander the Great. Do you know what the word Catholic means? It means universal. It was the universal church for the Roman Empire. If you didn't join it, you could not be a Roman citizen. And it was opposed to the teachings of Judaism and opposed to the teachings of the early Christians for more than 200 and some years. And they were diametrically opposed to each other to the extent that it was the Romans killing the early Christians.
So the Catholic Church was founded 3 centuries before Christ by Alexander the Great in Rome and became the dominant religion of the Roman Empire, and was called the Catholic Church because it's the universal religion of the Roman Empire.
It was apparently, in his view, a pagan belief system and institution. I'll tell you honestly, David, what I think this betrays is a very ugly sort of anti-Catholicism. One finds this also among certain Protestant fundamentalists, and I think in this case Muslims, who have this, it's kind of like anti-Semitism, except it's directed at Catholics, and I think it's extremely ugly and not to say absurd.
Yeah, I get comments from people all the time who are now who are persuaded. I think it was from one of those Chick tracts. Remember the
Yes,
Chick
oh,
tracts?
I do.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
I think it was from one of those or from some sort of pamphlet like that that the Catholic Church actually started Islam.
Oh.
And so,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's going around now too.
Yeah, just crazy.
All right, let's see what he has to finish up with here.
You know, by the way, I think this ought to be a good incentive for those of us who are Christians to study some church history. So many of us think that Christianity began with Billy Graham in the 20th century, and we need to read some books on church history and the history of doctrine. It's very illuminating and edifying to realize that we stand at the tail end of the most massive movement in the history of mankind, which is the Christian church.
Yep.
Now, if you understand that and you go to their website and read, they didn't even take over Christianity until the year 325 AD.
Oh.
And when they did, they changed a lot of things, again, referring to their own website. But if you want to check it in Britannica or Americana or grow your encyclopedias, go ahead and read about the Catholic Church. When in August of 325 AD at the Nicaea Council, they took over.
By the way, you see these guys taking notes? They're taking notes on all of this.
That's shocking, and I'll bet none of them will ever consult the sources that he said they should look up.
First thing they said was, let's change the date of the birth of Jesus to be the same date as that of Mithras, which was the god, one of the gods worshipped there, and also the sun god's birthday was the same day, December the 25th, believing it to be the shortest day of the year. And Constantine was a sun worshiper of Sol Invictus. Go to the website, read it for yourself.
So it's all supposedly there on the Catholic Church's website.
Yeah, I wonder what that website is.
He said it's the Catholic Church's website.
Yeah. Oh, yes, this is the kind of stuff, again, that you mentioned before, where the Council of Nicaea is blamed for inventing and doing all sorts of things, and just betrays a dreadful ignorance of church history. I mean, we have the writings of these so-called ante-Nicene church fathers that we can read and understand the debates over the Trinity and the deity of Christ, and how they struggled to enunciate the doctrine of the Trinity, and then the codification of the canon that occurred. This is just terrible ignorance that is pulling the wool over the eyes of these gullible people.
Yeah, and I agree with you that it's sad, just because I mean, there have to be plenty of Muslims who do know that's completely false. Like the crowd doesn't seem to get it, but there have to be educated Muslims who know that he's spouting complete nonsense, and yet they just don't call him out in the way you would be called out if you were spouting that kind of nonsense.
So what about people like Shabir Ali? Doesn't he call out any of these people? And
I'm not aware of there being any significant challenge to him from Muslim apologists or Muslim scholars. So sad situation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me, and for everyone watching, we're down here recording a massive series on the resurrection, which will be out just before Easter.